Better.
Way better intro.
Are we rolling?
Welcome to Not Sure This Matters with Matt Nolan, Dr. Marco Lujic, and Mike Ranfone, a.k.a. Mark Fish and Suits.
And Marcus.
And Marcus on the keys. What's up, boys?
See?
Lovely.
Is that his microphone back there?
That's a microphone.
He's mic'd up.
It's not plugged in, but
Oh,
Marcus, go
he
ahead
doesn't
and
know that, though.
shout out whenever you want. I have a last episode we talked about Tom Petty. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
So I couldn't let it go about bands or people that made me feel un-American if I didn't like them.
Right.
And I was having a conversation with two women at the gym the other day.
Yeah.
I was like making a joke, but we all had headphones and not paying attention to each other. And I took mine out and I was like, are we all listening to Billy Joel right now? And neither of them was.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
They weren't.
So that's Billy Joel.
He's a pretty American style musician.
Dude. He's the songbird of a generation.
Multiple wives.
Yeah.
Shot way out of his league. I mean,
Yeah, outkicked his coverage.
oh my God.
But if you play, I mean, he tells a story when he went into when he was in high school, he was a homely fella.
Yeah.
But he would start playing the piano and he would look up and there'd be like six chicks
Yeah.
right in front of him.
And he's
Like,
super,
this
and he's
is
not
awesome.
very good looking. So it just proves that money doesn't matter.
Yeah. Money
Yeah.
doesn't matter at
No
all.
big
Or
deal.
fame.
No. Yeah. Or fame.
It will not get you the hottest chick on the planet.
Or real estate.
Brinkley.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing matters. It's really personality.
But you
driven.
you think Billy Joel's like, if you don't like him, like it's an un-American kind of thing?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him
The
in
Piano Man. I mean, he sang a song about like everybody can reason with it, right? Like a lonely, dreary piano song. You're at a bar.
That's
it's
him.
late. Yeah.
That's his life.
Yeah.
He was dating the waitress.
Yeah.
And the waitress is practicing
Yeah.
politics.
Right.
And he married that woman.
Yeah.
He knew a guy in the Navy, Dame Davy.
Yeah.
Like, the fuck, he's a songwriter.
Amazing.
He hates the sound of his own voice. Anyway, what about Aerosmith?
I like him.
I mean, they're a classic American band.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm
Classic
an
American band.
And good rock and roll. I'm an Aerosmith fan.
But we
Across
we talked
decades.
about this in another one. It's like they have spanned decades
Yeah.
and generations. Like they've been putting out albums since like
late
literally the 70s,
I think late
maybe?
60s, early 70s. It's
Yeah.
been like 60 years. It's
So,
impressive.
I mean, I wish they stopped.
If you listen to his older stuff, it doesn't even sound like the Steven Tyler that we know.
No.
Yeah, but I mean, they had some like monumental albums when we were growing up.
Yeah, Get a Grip.
20 years before that, they were having
Other
it was
monumental
like-
albums.
They kept on showing up.
Who can ever forget Liv Tyler and
Yeah,
Alicia
yeah,
Silverstone?
Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah.
Watched it 1,000 times.
Hootie and the Blowfish.
There's no reason why you should even that should be in this conversation.
Excuse me?
Hootie and the Blowfish?
Yeah, they're in the canon of American pop.
Like but do you think it's un-American? Like you think their appeal is so great that you should be deported if you don't like them?
That's right.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
I'm not on that boat either.
Yeah.
But I did see them at the opening of the Special Olympics in New Haven at the Yale Bowl.
Really?
Yeah, I forget, maybe 1996 or something.
You're going to tell me you didn't own cracked rear view mirror?
No, God no.
There's no way, and I believe Mike.
I mean,
there's no way
I
he
could
listened.
even tell you.
Don't say you couldn't hit one song. That
I
Hootie and
could
the
not
Blowfish
tell
did.
you one
Yeah.
song.
Only
I-
want to be with you.
I
yeah,
couldn't-
thank you.
I-
Oh, you're a fucking
but
liar.
I couldn't tell you what the name of that song is.
Only want to be
Nobody
with
could.
you.
Nobody knows the words.
Yeah,
Nobody
it's
knows
called
the name, but it's
Only
just,
Want to Be With You.
It's called Only Want to Be With You.
But who do
you
you
actually know that?
No.
Yeah. See,
But I had the album.
and they're an American band.
Yeah,
Come
yeah.
on.
All right, I'll do the best
He's
I can,
doing
Mike.
country music now, by the way.
Darius Rucker.
Yeah, and his son, they have like a pretty cool song out recently put out.
his country music is good.
Yeah,
Rucker Roll.
He's
Yeah.
a great singer. I do like him a lot.
Sorry.
I'm at the gym the other day,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm doing my thing, and I don't know what happened, but I won't give you the context. I'm going to tell you what I said.
Okay.
I hate dogs and that they're stupid animals.
That's always a good lead.
So,
Like,
so I don't know why I said it,
Trying to pick up chicks.
but
again.
I said it, and there was a few people around me, and the three of them were all pretty offended. And like I tried to walk it back, and then like everybody kind of went on with their day. And I couldn't let it go. I'm one of those people who can't let stuff go, right?
Yeah.
And so I said to Jenny that night, I'm like, do I need to apologize to each of these people individually that
I
I
would.
said something that was offensive? Okay, fine. The bigger question is, I understand that people love dogs and people like treat them like part of their family, and I think that's all well and good for them. It's not for me. That's
Yeah.
basically what I was saying. Dogs aren't
Sure.
for me. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how viscerally people responded to it.
Yeah.
And it made me think about like other shit that people talk about that gets so offended by something that I feel, that's my opinion,
Yeah.
that it makes them dislike me for it.
Right.
Is that fair?
No, and especially with something like a fucking dog. Like, if you don't like dogs and they love them, and you say I don't like dogs, like, who cares? Just go about your day. I don't have to defend why I like dogs or cats to anybody.
Right, but would you? So it's almost like I'm not going to be friends with that person because they dislike dogs. Do you agree with that sentiment? Are there if someone's unlike you, are you less likely to be friends with them?
No.
I don't think that's correct.
And I
What
don't
do you mean?
think
I think that all the people you probably hang out with have the same sentiment, opinion, and like mentality.
Well,
I think
animal-
I think there's
default-
more overlap than not, but like if I'm gonna single out, like we have a good friend that does not like animals at all,
yeah.
and wouldn't have a problem with you.
And
But
some-
I think it's how
something happened to Carl the other day. Is that a side note? Marcus,
Yes.
Marcos like, Elizabeth, how's Carl?
something's still going on with Carl.
Oh,
It's
poor
not done
Carl.
yet.
All
Carl's my cat, by the
Yeah.
way. But like I think the way that you presented
Yeah.
that piece of information about yourself,
Yeah.
out of nowhere,
Yeah.
shouting in a public situation
Yeah.
to people that don't know you all that well.
It wasn't great. It
I
wasn't
don't.
great.
Yeah.
So I did. I apologized to literally everybody.
It's just
that
like, I
was
don't like
there.
orphans.
Yeah.
You know.
It was so fucking stupid. I walked
Yeah.
away. I was like, God damn it, Mac.
It's what I would define as fairly uncouth
Yeah,
of you.
it was very
knowing
uncouth.
you
And
being
I-
as polished and like
and I'm not a talker at the gym either.
yeah,
so for
which
me to
is
say
total words. It's
anything,
like I
yeah.
didn't even know that guy had a tongue.
Yeah, yeah.
And now he hates dogs.
Everything was so bad.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
a bad
so
look. Bad look.
Thank God one of the dogs. didn't-
Handwritten notes
No,
die.
I just walked up.
I think
to
a
him.
handwritten note
I just
is
walked up to him
in order.
and I texted Becca. That Becca was in there. How about some fact checks?
Fact checks.
Let's get down to the brass tacks,
Yeah,
should we?
let's calm this thing down a bit.
Becoming a U.S. citizen, you can apply for naturalization if you meet certain eligibility requirements. This process is known as naturalization. Eligibility requirements: you have to be 18 years old, have been a lawful permanent resident or green card holder for a certain number of years, have good moral character, good luck figuring that out, and have residency in the state or USCIS district where you intend to apply. You then need to take a test, attend the ceremony to officially become a U.S. citizen, and pass fingerprinting and a background check.
Yeah.
Just for fun, what do we call the first 10 amendments of the Constitution? This is the exam for naturalization.
What do we call the first 10? The first 10.
The 10 Commandments.
The Bill
I know
of,
this.
The Bill, of Rights. We elect a U.S. senator for how many years?
They're on a 4-year rotation, right?
That's right, 6. If the president and vice president can no longer serve, who becomes president?
Secretary of State.
Excellent. Speaker of the House. So these aren't easy.
No.
Like who the poor guys out
Yeah, I
there.
don't
No
know.
wonder my buddy can't become a citizen.
Well, the problem is if I gave you that list right now, ask us the questions again, you'll get them right tomorrow.
That's true. Oh my gosh, great point. I just read an article about
It's like med school. Half the shit you just got to memorize for the test.
they were talking about surgeons and the efficacy of a surgeon that gets coached an hour before they go into surgery versus ones that don't.
Yeah.
And they used their sample was, or their control was, what's the word? Intubation, where you put the breathing
Yeah,
pipe
yeah.
for babies. And they said like the average success rate is 86%, but if they were coached within an hour of going into surgery, it's almost 100%.
Well, it's like anything, right? So if you in surgical world, I used to always say this to the residents. If you walked up to a field and you're about to play a soccer game, you would never at a high level just walk in, put your cleats on and start the game.
Yeah.
Like you warm up, you stretch, you kick balls, you start to refine your skill set so that by the time the game comes, you know what the fuck you're doing. It's the same. Surgery is a sport in my mind. So in a surgical atmosphere like what you're talking about with intubation, if you practiced before you went into the real
Yep.
show, you're going to do better.
That's the analogy they use. They use sports and pop stars, how they like practice singing before they go on stage.
Right.
And yet they just send surgeons in cold turkey.
Yeah, which was a huge argument I always had with people in the surgical world. Like, they want you to do tons of office hours, and in academia, you have research days, and you're 2 weeks off practicing, actually operating. You're just doing research and reading. But if you want someone to be a good surgeon, it's like the NBA. You want to be good at foul shots, you got to take 1,000 shots a day, over and over and over every single day. So a surgeon who doesn't practice that every single day is not going to be operating at their full capacity in a time of need, which is amazing because the least experienced in terms of hours in an operating room, if you were to look at a general surgery practice, are amongst trauma surgeons because they do the least amount of elective surgery. They just cover trauma. So imagine now you have the least refined skill set in the hospital in terms of surgical acumen, taking care of the highest potential for disaster coming in terms of traumatic surgery, like after a car accident or gunshot. No shit, it's not going to probably go really well every time.
That feels backwards.
Correct.
And if like in context of the preparation, like you don't know what's coming in.
You don't know.
Yeah.
And when it's coming in. So
But like it's amazing. So I would take trauma call and say I had a full elective day, right? So I did 8 or 9 operations that day. And then I was on trauma call that night. When something came in, it was like a really simple transition. We were just like, oh, here's another abdomen. Let's open it.
I just took out 11 gallbladders.
But on a weekend, even operating all week, you go on Saturday and say your first case starts Sunday, it takes like 20, 30 minutes to like get back in that mindset.
Yeah, I don't sink a 10-footer until I get to the 6th hole.
That's right.
Dave Matthews Band. To hire the Dave Matthews Band for an event can range from
$200,000.
$1 to $2 million.
Whoa.
he's going to be at our next client appreciation
Yeah,
event.
yeah.
Mike said that he didn't go inside the concert.
Wait, what? $1 to $2 million?
Yeah, if they're interested at all.
Wow.
Mike said he didn't go inside the concert. He liked to hang out in the parking lot. Are
Yes.
you familiar with Dave Matthews Band parking lot hoorays?
Incredible.
Marco and I have
Were you
an
there?
epic story.
Were you there in
Multiple-
1999?
I was not at that one.
In 1999,
The
at the Meadows
shootings.
Arena outside of Hartford, Connecticut, the Dave Matthews Band concerts were disrupted by 2 nights of rioting
Yeah.
in the parking lots outside the shows, which included alcohol and nitrous oxide consumption.
Rubber bullets.
Mike, lighting cars on fire,
Yeah.
fighting,
Yeah.
and rubber bullets and riot gears from Hartford police.
Yep. I was there.
You were there.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you get hit by a rubber
No,
bullet?
I had left before that started because I only went for the tailgate to start. Yeah, it was crazy.
I was always wondering, where are we going?
It's like Wu-Tang. Remember they ripped down all the fences?
Nobody?
Wu-Tang corn?
Where we go?
we're throwing-
Wu-Tang and Rage was
and we're
in
throwing
98,
dirt at-
97.
Together?
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan and Rage Against the Machine?
Yeah, yeah.
What a crowd.
The entire fence came down.
Yeah.
Fires, and then people were digging up patches of dirt and just hucking them at the stage. And I think it was Method Man or whoever on stage was like, no,
M-E-T-H-O-D.
we're not doing this. And he like got angry with the crowd.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
then there were some people in the crowd like, I defend Method Man, right?
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
they
yeah.
started fighting other people in the crowd and turned into a
Fucking wild.
gong
The
show.
only reason why I wasn't there was because it was a Sunday.
Okay.
The Sunday before my senior year football camp opened up, so I didn't want to go in that
Yeah,
Monday
you can't.
being
Priorities.
jacked up.
Priorities.
Yeah, that's it.
Boiling water versus salted water.
They're both hot.
The boiling point of water is 212 degrees Fahrenheit and is a few degrees higher for salted water, though in most cooking applications, the difference is negligible.
Sure.
Disease.
I love it.
A disorder of structure or function in a human, animal, or plant, especially one that has a known cause and a distinctive group of symptoms, signs, or anatomical changes. Or a particular quality, habit, or disposition regarded as adversely affecting a person or group of people.
Yeah. I wonder when that second piece of that definition came into play. I think that's more with like mental health stuff.
Yeah, it sounds more social than it does like medical.
Yeah, rather. And it's reasonable.
It's reasonable, but I think they probably keep it generic for a reason.
Right.
They made the differentiation between disease and illness. That a disease is something that you can't contract yourself. You get it from an outside source, and
Yeah.
the illness is something you bring on yourself.
And let
So
me
I think
just
they were catering that more towards mental health.
it's an interesting thing because in my field of work right now, and I don't mean to like steal the conversation, but it is not looked at as a disease by definition in the medical society if you are not optimized.
What is not looked at
Like
as a disease?
kind of not having optimal biomarkers.
Okay.
There's like this quote unquote spectrum. But what's funny to me is how can you take that definition and not apply it to kind of anybody, right?
Right,
Like
you could.
if you're staying up late is affecting your output the next day. Like technically that's a disease by that definition, right? So sleep could be pathologic sleep disorders and hormone depletions and vitamin depletions. All these things fall in this category, and it's hard to switch the public's view on it because in their mind, a disease is purely something that needs a medical intervention with a pill.
My wife and I are both on a cut right now, and we're keeping our energy levels up. It's like nearly impossible.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, and so Dylan was telling you got to keep up the carbohydrates, and it's like fucking you don't want to eat.
Yeah.
Nutrition education. This is from the National Center for Education Statistics.
Nice.
I don't believe it already.
That's like the first time
Did
I
they
ever
shut
told you
that-
where I got the data.
Did they shut that down?
They may have, yeah.
All right, good.
Nutrition is taught in each and every grade from kindergarten through 10th grade in over 90% of all public schools
In America?
in America. It is taught, I don't actually know that, I just assumed it. It is taught in 11th and 12th grades in over 80% of schools. The percent of schools with nutrition education requirements is substantially lower at each grade level than the percent of schools that teach nutrition. For each grade from kindergarten through 8th, at least 50% of all schools have a district or state requirement for students to receive nutritional education, while 40% of these have requirements for 9th and 10th grades.
I've never heard that.
So you get taught nutrition by mandate more than likely in elementary school, and the further you progress, the less likely you are to learn about it.
Yeah. I don't doubt it. I mean, but it's very superficial, which is fine. But then I don't know how you
Yeah, can we get the curriculum?
into
Can we see
practice.
what like the optimal?
So they were
Yeah,
talking.
eat cereal at breakfast. You know, it's
So
the
I always think
triangle.
of the food, the food pyramid, but they called it something else, and I almost put it on here. But then when I looked at how many words I had written for a fact check, I was like, I got to move the fuck.
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
You're right. You're right. That's next week.
President Trump signed an executive order on Wednesday aimed at prohibiting transgender women and girls from competing in women's sports, directing agencies to withdraw federal funding for any schools that refuse to comply. From now on, women's sports will only be for women, he said. Here's a question.
Yeah.
Doc, you work in hormone therapy.
Yeah.
Anyone ever walk into I don't know if you're allowed to answer this. Do people ever walk into your office and say, pump me full of the opposite gender's hormones and
Yes.
help me change my gender?
Yeah. And interestingly, I just had one like last week.
Does it become a moral/ethical question for you? Are you mandated to do it?
There's no mandate. It's a voluntary thing for me because I don't deal with any insurance. So I don't take any payments from outside providers or third parties. My stance on it is I don't care. Like if you want to be a guy or a girl or whatever, that's good for you and I'll help you get there.
You will.
Oh yeah. I have nothing in my body that doesn't agree with the LGBTQ movement. It doesn't bother me. Like, do your thing, man. And I want everybody, guy, girl, to feel comfortable in their own body. So if that means doing hormone therapies, changing to be a girl, guy, it doesn't matter. I support it fully. But if you want to bring it around to the sports things, I think you have to, just like the Olympics, there's the Special Olympics, right? And I grew up with a handicapped brother, so I feel pretty comfortable talking about this stuff. Like, there are some people that don't belong in the fucking Olympics because you're just not good enough, right? Or you don't have the talent or you don't fit the bill for competing in that group of events by definition of entry. So like if you're a guy, you should not really compete in women's sports, even if you transition, because at the end of the day, if you went into a locker room of a women's Division I soccer team and I started pumping them full of testosterone and anabolics and got them all juiced up, they're going to compete differently than the girls that aren't on those substances.
At a higher level.
So if you wanted to play the PED game as the baseline for your measurement of inclusivity in both of those things, if you're a dude and you are playing women's sports, by definition, you're on a PED. Because if the women can't take testosterone to support their cause, you shouldn't be able to come in with a full load of testosterone in your body.
I want to take a step back. You said if they want to get pumped through the opposite gender's hormones to feel more comfortable in their own skin. Will you feel comfortable if you start pumping? Let's use me for an example. If I start taking a shit ton of estrogen, am I going to feel comfortable?
Well, I don't know. That's up to how you want to feel. I wouldn't do it if it was going to give you, say, a heart attack.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to cause you dementia or diabetes or some detrimental effect to your true health.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Hormones control what? They control your emotions. They control your libido. They control your musculature growth. They control your hair growth. They control your bone density, like a whole bunch of shit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I All right, let me ask it this way. If I started taking a bunch of estrogen, am I going to get more emotional? Am I going to become more, quote, feminine?
Absolutely. One of the biggest side effects of over stimulation of estrogen production in men is they start crying and being very tearful and emotional over things that they never were.
But what about for women? If a woman takes too much estrogen, will the same thing happen to her?
No, they just feel horrific.
Because they metabolize it differently?
Yeah, they already have really high levels, and if you add too much, it's not super detrimental to their health, but they will emotionally be not feeling good.
But all right, so let's go to the other side now. If
Yeah.
I wanted to take testosterone, if I wanted to take a shit ton of testosterone,
Yeah.
am I going to get hyper emotional, hyper aggressive? Like, what's going to happen to me if I take too much testosterone? Mike's nodding his head like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could experience some of that if you really, really overdosed it hard.
So I take I think 9 cc's.
Yeah.
Is that right?
90 units, 0.9 of a cc.
Okay, a week.
Yeah.
If I took the little bottle and I drank all of it or injected all of it, what's going to happen?
You'd probably just get some more acne and feel a little different for a couple days.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you sustain that over years,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
there's a
different
reason
story.
why there are physiological ranges that we have deemed to be safe,
Yeah.
normal, whatever.
Yeah.
And when you exceed those ranges for a certain period of time, there's going to be extra cost to that. That might be personality disorder.
Yeah.
That might be emotional instability. That might be a heart attack. Like, so yeah, this stuff can't happen in a vacuum. So
No.
changing one thing as simple as I'm just going to do a little bit more tests or I'm just going to do some more estrogen. There are downstream effects that we can't even anticipate until they show up and be like,
Right.
And I'm trying not to speak on
No,
the
no,
medical
it's good
side of
to
things,
speak
but
on
it's
it.
like,
well, I was going to ask you on the training
It's
side.
chronic exposure is the problem.
but
But
here's-
acute, no big deal.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say on the training side, is it something that you pay attention to, or do you just say like, hey, this guy's getting bigger, this woman's doing better, and great, good for them. Their medication is working? Or do you have to like keep a red flag up or keep your eyes open to make sure it's not overexertion or they're working too hard or changing too much too quickly?
One of the things that we've always tried to do, and this is why Marco and I have chosen to work together, is because we know that we can work synergistically together, right? So each piece becomes an amplification of the next thing.
Yep.
When we're looking at a medical intervention and making sure that the cornerstone of behavioral modification, nutrition, training, lifestyle, whatever is in place, we know that we're going to get a sum greater than or a whole greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons why we are differentiated in what we do.
Can your brain or personality, like let's go further than that. Let's say that the hormones have some impetus to your emotional drive. Okay.
100%.
All right. So if I was like my normal day, I don't cry when I watch episode of Home Improvement, but I start taking estrogen and all of a sudden I start crying at that episode. Let's use that example. Is the hormone therapy changing my brain chemistry? Because in the way that I think about it, like things that make me sad happens up here, and I'm pointing to my brain, folks.
Yeah.
Like I know that if I watch Mona Lisa smile, I'm gonna cry when I see Julia Roberts leave the school.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, sorry. What do they call that? Spoiler alert. So if I take estrogen, am I gonna get more sensitive to it?
Yes.
Okay. If I go up on testosterone because I'm a man,
Right.
am I going to become less sensitive to it?
Transiently, maybe, but if
Okay.
you are chronically on excess testosterone, you will convert testosterone into estrogen. So part of the beauty in treating men with testosterone is if you do it the right way, you also push their estrogen up to balance out that emotional variability.
By default, or do you actually also
No, by
take
default,
estrogen?
your
Okay.
body will do it. And
Okay.
then the reason how I do it is you monitor those changes over time, kind of graphically, and you can see, okay, you convert X percentage of your testosterone to estrogen, so we need to not dose you too much or too little based on your muscle mass, fat mass, all these other variables.
Yep.
Where we ruined it for ourselves, not me speaking for myself, but like in general in the population of kind of anabolic stimulation is bodybuilding world used to give high doses of testosterone and then estrogen blockers because they wanted these people with like shredded muscle and zero water retention, which estrogen tends to do in the subcutaneous tissue so that you can see the muscles better.
Okay.
But when you do that and completely block estrogen and completely explode somebody's testosterone levels, like what Mike was saying before, that's where you get the really detrimental effects to the vascular system, to the liver, to emotional stability. And that's where like the roid rage thing happened. But if I give you testosterone and do it the right way, you'll actually be more fucking emotionally stable.
All right, but if testosterone naturally comes from my testicles, and after a while taking bioidentical testosterone, my brain stops telling my testicles to make it because I have enough.
Right.
Where does my estrogen come from?
From that testosterone conversion. So the testosterone you would be taking, your body would then convert, it's called an aromatase enzyme, into estrogen.
Interesting.
Yeah, it always takes a portion of it because your body, adult men, estrogen's really, really good for us. It's actually one of the best chemicals to have in your body. And it's actually upsetting sometimes. It's hard because some men don't convert a lot and you have them with these elevated testosterones and their estrogen doesn't come with it. And then in some of them, you got to have a conversation even about potentially adding. It's a very off-label use because the world of age management doesn't love it. But I don't want guys with super low estrogen, super high testosterone, because the risk of vascular disease then changes drastically.
This morning I walked into your facility and to the left was the weight room and to the right was a sign that said cancer screening.
Yeah.
Did you guys get any pushback when you started a doctor's office inside a gym?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think a lot of people thought we were kind of stupid. It's like, it's probably, I want to say it's like when someone's like, you like peanut butter and I like chocolate. What happens when we put these two things together?
That's a terrible idea. Don't do that.
Yeah, don't. Yeah. But I think it came from, especially the medical community being like, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then from the gym community, it was like territorialism where it's like, now you're infringing on what we've had.
Yeah.
Where, like, honestly, I think one of the things, even before we had this, I always looked at businesses somewhat of a competition. That's just my personality.
You mean yours for somebody else's?
What do you mean?
You mean business as a competition,
yes.
You against yourself or you against the world?
I mean, there's people at play. There's competitors out there, right?
Yep.
So an easy way to see if you can beat the market is to look at what your competitors do and do it better.
Yeah, well, Dale Carnegie said the strongest driver of success is competition.
The second thing that you can do and this is just business advice 101, is look at what your competitors don't do and do it. Because then now you're differentiated.
Yep.
It's literally always going to be an apples and oranges. So when you looked at fitness, it was mostly group fitness. So we didn't do group fitness. We had personalized care. We had nutrition. We had accountability. We have coaches. We have all these things that make us us. And then to me, the medical side of things was the right move, not only for the business, but more importantly, the right move for the clientele that we service. Because clearly the people that want that, as opposed to any commercial gym out there or any group fitness class or any whatever boutique, they're going to be way more interested in adding benefit and adding aspects to their health regime. Because they see it as a constellation of services rather than one thing.
Yeah, if it's a bespoke fitness program, why wouldn't I want to take the next step?
Right.
Doc, what was it like maybe on the...
Well,
and he probably got more pushback than I
Yeah,
like.
I mean,
I think the business side was just like, how are you going to do it rather than why are you doing that?
I can respond to the territorial part. I mean, I remember because I was seeing Marco at the other office and I was going to your gym and then you guys are going to get together and I was like, this isn't going to work. I go to the gym to lift weights and not only did I like the fact that that was my lifting weights spot, I wasn't sure I wanted people to know I was going to see Marco. But then when I changed my perspective and looked at it more like I'm just trying to optimize my health and got over the stigma of I'm cheating or I'm trying to do something that's like kind of like taboo.
Yeah.
I felt great about it and proud of it, really. It's like, what the fuck? I want to get better. That's what I'm trying to do here.
Correct.
Doc?
For me, it was an interesting thing, like at the hospital, and I'm telling you, like close family, I mean, in my inner circle, friends, everyone, when I was like, I'm going to quit doing surgery, and I'm going to open an office at the gym. Like,
duh.
Multiple people, well, how are you going to make a living? Like, there's a local vascular surgeon who constantly was like, you're never going to make enough money. It's all money, 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 right? Like, here's the deal. It works.
Yep.
In my mind, if you are looking, and I'm all bought in clearly because I did it.
Yep.
But like, if you want real healthcare, this is where it's at. there's plenty of online models where like you sign up and some random health coach from a screen in Colorado says, yeah, this is what you need. And they send you a program.
Here's more Adderall.
Yeah, and then here's our doctor. And for 8 minutes, you meet up with the doctor and you fill out this punch list before you meet the doctor. And then all of a sudden, there's a bunch of scripts flying at you.
I've done it. Yeah,
those exist.
Yeah.
This is true, like, come sit down, 60, 90 minutes of time. I am interacting with the training staff constantly. We are integrated in terms of nutrition, exercise, the medical end of it. And like Mike said, synergistically, you get a better result. And data-driven health. I mean, I can't tell you how many pre-diabetics are now not, how many diabetics are now on their way to being free of diabetes, how many hypercholesterolemics that were on the verge of heart attacks are not, how many people with biomarkers that they didn't know they were heading towards a heart attack are not. So in my mind, all of the pushback truly comes down to, in the medical community, ego. So when I was in a lounge with a bunch of surgeons and I said, yeah, I'm going to partner up with a guy who owns a gym, they're like, oh, you're some fucking meathead selling steroids in the back of a gym. It's like, well, actually, you're a fucking skinny-necked twerp who can't do a fucking push-up and are unhealthy.
Yeah.
Or there was a neurosurgeon who once told me, a spine neurosurgeon who can't put his own socks on because he's so fat, who once was like, that's a waste of time. That's voodoo medicine. It's like, guy, you put metal cages
You should stop by.
in people's backs under anesthesia, and I'm doing voodoo. Like, let's start to have the perspective differently. Transplant surgeon, I knew. You wasted all that time in residency, became an attending, and now you're going to go do age management in the back of a gym. That's voodoo. He said the word voodoo. He does transplant surgeries. They take an organ from one
body and put it in another.
Because that person drank so much they killed their liver. Still the number one indicator for transplant, right? So if you really want to break it down, it's an institutionalized thought that we were completely breaking free of. And everyone's swimming one direction, and we just started going the other. And the kickback was profound for me.
If you wanted to take insurance, would it change? Would it have to be different?
You can't really, because they won't cover this stuff. Because a lot of the things we do are optimization. So I always use the car analogy. What we do is you come to us with a car that has 1/8 of a tank of gas, a couple tires are flat, and you got a rusted axle.
Yep.
And our job is Mike will fix your tires, your axle, get that body work done, and I'll make sure your tank of gas is full so that when you do get back on the highway, you can actually keep up with the speed of traffic.
I don't want to downplay what you guys do, but for me to be a real estate broker, I had to take some state tests, and then I have to do continuing ed every 2 years. And then once I get a license, I either need to start a company myself and register with the state of Connecticut, or I need to hang my shingle with another broker and become an associate broker.
Yeah.
What kind of certifications do you guys have, and what does that look like in terms of like perpetual and education, continuing ed?
Yeah, so from the medical end, you have to do continuing medical education. You sign up for these things called CMEs. Age management technically is not a registered entity of medicine.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's going to take a very long time, and then they're going to want acceptance in the endocrinology world. It's more bullshit just because of bureaucracy in medical field than anything. But in terms of keeping up with education,
maintaining your license.
Yeah, you have to maintain that. And then the proof is how your patients do, right? Like, I have accountability to each and every one of my patients.
To whom?
Right? I have a couple hundred people that I take care of.
To whom, though?
To the patient.
All right, but who
because
supervises you?
Really nobody. But
Okay.
if they all of a sudden come in with sickness and feeling worse and their biomarkers are terrible and they all have heart attacks, well, that's a direct indicator that what we're doing isn't working.
And not to mention, everything is recorded.
Everything.
Like, so right. It's not like you can be like, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, you can't hide. The easiest place to hide as a doctor is in a big hospital system. Like, you go see a doctor at one of these. I mean, I knew surgeons that took out the wrong fucking organ.
Yeah.
There was a surgeon at our hospital, took out the wrong organ, essentially caused someone life-changing, miserable illness, went into like a little bit of hiding, and now is the director of a huge hospital programs oncology division in Florida.
I mean, there's a reason they write the word right and left on the arm that you're going in to have surgery and check like 30 times before they do it.
I mean, the easiest place to hide is in hospitals.
Mike? What about you? Continuing ed? What kind of certifications, licensing?
Well, there's nothing that I have to do necessarily to do what I do, but myself and all the staff have national certifications. Most of them have exercise science, exercise physiology degrees.
Yep.
2 of us are, because of manual therapy, we're governed by the Department of Health.
Yep.
We have national accreditation. So we've really tried to get everything under like a national and local jurisdiction, like registered. But for what we do in terms of age management care, that's just good training.
What do you do for you? What do you do to become better at your job or to learn more about health, nutrition, exercise? Are you a reader? Are you a watcher?
I mean, so
conference goer?
We actually used to be a host site for a lot of conferences. Like I used to bring in some of the best people in the world. So I was actually known for a while as like the hub of education in the Northeast,
Nice.
Which just allowed me to get my staff trained for free.
Yeah, sweet.
But
That works.
we're huge proponents of continuing ed, so there are CEUs available. I mean, one of my guys is taking actually a pregnancy class or a training nutrition class for
Okay.
pre and postnatal care. So yeah, I mean, like all my guys have certain higher level certifications that are way above what you'd find at, again, your local gym.
The other interesting thing is, I think in small business world medicine, for me, I've read more on really up to date information and leading edge stuff constantly, because you got to sift through a lot of shit.
Yeah, you walked in with a book on peptides the other day.
More now than I've ever done in my life, because as a surgeon, you kind of get pigeonholed into doing the same thing over and over and over, which is great because you got to be good at that one skill set.
Yeah.
This is
if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Yeah, this is a really different skill set, and it's a lot of real science and then discerning old science that was crap, right? Because like we look at, say, the Women's Health Initiative or the whole thing that pushed testosterone causes prostate cancer. If you really go through that data, that's false, like completely false. They published an article that was wrong, and nobody's held accountable to it. But if you really look through the data of a lot of these studies, you can find very different outcomes than what the published word is on the highlight of a newspaper article.
I've been trying to get life insurance or change my life insurance,
Yeah.
and I had to like tell the person about me.
Yeah.
And I was honest, and I said that I'm a smoker. You know, I vape a shit ton.
Does that qualify for smoking? Like, I don't know how it works.
So they say, "Are you a smoker?" And I've actually filled out both forms where it's like, "Do you smoke and or do you vape?" This one just said, "Are you a smoker?" And I checked yes. I wanted to be honest, and so I keep getting these crazy high rates. And the guy's like, "Well, you're a smoker, so like, you know, your health isn't that good." And I wrote back, I'm like, "Fucking check my labs, dude."
Yeah.
So the question
Fucking
is,
check my lab.
like, the stuff that we do, that you teach, that you provide for people that buy in, even just a little bit or a lot of it, and they want to get healthier. Like, we're not all perfect, right? I smoke. Some people drink. Some people do drugs. Some people have sex too much. Some people eat too much.
Who are the people that have sex too much?
I've heard.
Oh,
I
okay,
actually don't know any. Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah.
It's a rumor.
Marcus?
What is too much?
Research, fact check.
Marcus, right? Marcus
Actually,
gets
fact
laid
check.
too much. You ever see how happy that fucking kid is?
He's always
That ain't by
smiling.
accident.
Yeah, he's 20-something, no kids.
Should there be, like, I'm getting dinged for using a vape a few hundred times a day instead of getting credit for fucking working out like a savage 6 days a week, watching what I eat, and going to an age management doctor. Are there things that people is what we do helping us, even if we have some of those little shits that we probably shouldn't do, but we do anyway? Can we overcome those? Is our body overcoming? Is my body still healthier than the next guy, even though I smoke because I work out a ton?
And
Ask your doctor.
And Michael comment too, I just have to get this out before I forget it. Like, you just hit the nail on the head in terms of the entirely false algorithmic method that science is looked at in terms of data, right? So you have 99 things in your life that are so much better, and then they have like this one checkbox, vaping.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
You smoke, you're going to die.
but here's the difference. So if you deal with a life insurance person that is behind a desk, remote, meets with you for 10 minutes, they're going to say, nope, you're a higher risk.
Yes.
Okay. That's regular doctor in the regular world, your primary care. You come sit with me. I'm going to tell you, the smoking's not so great. But here's the other 99 things you're doing so well. So the way we can treat the smoking, if you're really not going to give it up, is by continuing to make the other 99 things really well. The problem is, to do that, it takes a lot of time. So if you're a volume-based system, which is regular medicine, regular health insurance, all these other things, they're never going to sit down with you like you just asked and look through your labs. Talk to the guy who writes your training. Talk to the guy who does your medicine. We can be like, yeah, Matt's really fucking healthy. Here's why he should get that policy, because he may vape, but relative to the non-smoking 320 pounder
average man,
right, who can't walk, he's way healthier.
Yeah,
but they don't do that. Dude. They do algorithms. But Mike can comment on your exercise capacity probably too.
Well, the cool thing is, like, we know what smoking does. We know what drinking does. We know what happens when they do them together. Like, we have, like, we have case studies on this. We have data on this. So you look at, like, say the pathology of what occurs, and then we reverse back to what's the physiology at play here. There's a really good argument to say that if you are at a healthy body weight, if you train regularly, if your cardiovascular system is good, you can buffer a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm asking.
And this is not a get out of jail free card.
Sure.
Obviously, you are
I'm not
changing
asking for a free pass.
The more variables you change, the more likely the outcome will change too. But I think if we had everything happen in a vacuum and we say, well, let's take the extreme: overweight, overfed, lethargic, alcoholic smoker, compared to you, I'm going to put my money on you having a better health outcome longer.
I say the same thing to guys when they come into AA for the first time. They're like, oh man, I got to get healthy. I got to start going to the gym. I got to start being nicer to my wife and going to get back to school to get a new degree. I'm like, whoa. Let's just not drink today. Let's just not drink today. And then we'll worry about the rest of the shit later.
Yeah.
Is there a, it's such a hard question to ask. So if I'm a smoker, right, I come into you and I say like, hey, I smoke or I drink too much or I eat too much and I want to get healthier, but I don't want to quit smoking right now. I guess you mentioned cardiovascular, so I started thinking about cardio. Like my old man says, the key to health is running. You got to run to build up your heart. Can you do certain exercise to counteract stuff that you're not ready to quit? Like, could you set me up on programs like, all right, you're a smoker and you want a healthy heart, you got to do more of X, Y, or Z?
Not specifically. It obviously depends on where that person is starting from, but any amount of exercise is good. We know that.
Yeah.
As compared to no exercise is good. Alcohol, smoking, there's probably not a great measurement system to say how much is good or how much is beneficial, and then when are the diminishing returns coming into play. But we know less of those things are better.
Yeah.
The interesting thing that happens when people do have, some, baggage coming in, and then they start training, and then they start counting calories, and then the other stuff goes down.
Yeah, it starts to shed a little bit.
Yeah, it's like the scales start to shift in their favor, and if you can just continue that over decades, people do all right.
Yeah, it's kind of what we said before. It's kind of almost happens by default.
Yeah.
A trainer told me I was doing a bench press and I only had to do 2, right? I had to max out on weight.
Yeah.
And so the first time I got up to 2, and then I was supposed to do a 2-minute rest. I didn't want to wait 2 minutes. So after 90 seconds, I put it back up and I couldn't get the second one. He looked at me and he said, you were muscularly ready, but you were not neurologically ready.
Yeah. I
Is that
get
true?
that now. Yeah, totally. So there are different systems, obviously, in your body that are working all the time, and specifically for training, and even more specifically for certain training endeavors. So if you're working in that rep range for that type of exercise, your nervous system is going to be the biggest constraint to having successful, repeatable outcomes.
Can you say that in layman's terms? What was he telling me? That my muscles are strong enough to actually do it?
Let me ask you this. Were you out of breath before your next set? Like after you did that and the 90 seconds that took place between your prior set and the set you were going into, were you out of
No.
Okay, so your cardiovascular system was not taxed.
No.
It was not the limiting factor.
No.
Were your muscles sore?
No.
No, so your muscular system was probably all right.
Yeah.
So and I'm skipping over a bunch of
It's
stuff.
okay. Yeah.
So then we get to your nervous system. For it to drive as much neural output and contraction type for you to replicate that type of endeavor,
Yeah.
it just wasn't ready. It's like you took the dimmer switch and cranked it up.
Yeah.
and then you cranked it down and you had to slowly bring it back up. And by the time that 90 seconds elapsed, you were only at like 6, not 10.
So how do we know if we're ready to lift a weight again? How do we know if we're ready to go on to the next exercise?
It's somewhat contingent on the type of training, the type of movement, what body part. And like, thank God there is research out there to kind of guide, like, that's what you usually see, like 1 to 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and then 3 to 5 minutes. And that should kind of tell you what system is going to be most constrained to do it again. And that's why they're trying to always, like, if you look at your like work to rest ratios, they're trying to figure that out for you.
And it's one of those things where, like, I remember the first time I ever felt what like 300 pounds on a bench press above my head felt like. And I didn't have to move it, but you can feel the pressure, right?
Yeah.
You're like, all right, my wrist might break, my elbow might break, my shoulder, I can't believe this is above me. Just put it back.
Yeah.
And the more you register what that feels like over and over again, the more you get used to that. And then the nervous system is not so protective over your body either. So that you can then register in your brain, well, this isn't going to kill me. I just need to muscle this, right? And I think that Mike has a really good explanation of nervous versus muscle. And I think that's part of how he builds these programs too. It's not like people take for granted, oh, I'm doing 2 reps at 3 sets or whatever. That why the fuck am I doing this? I don't need to rest. There's a reason, because if you rest that 2 minutes, your nervous system resets. Now you can push your muscles to do more, and you'll probably build better strength and better mental endurance, being like, all right, the next time this weight's above me, it's not going to threaten me.
So is the adverse of that true too, Mike? So if you are, let's say, muscularly not ready or even incapable, but your neurological or your adrenaline is so strong that you can do something that you didn't, like, is that how you say women can lift a car off their kid?
Angel dust, adrenaline, PCP.
Yeah.
There's a reason they say, like, angel dust and PCP have fucking superhuman strength. Like, yeah. Now, I'm going to say something really offensive.
Okay.
People call it, like, whatever, retard strength.
Lay it on me.
Okay? That's a fucking real thing, because those people, if you have a potentially mental disability, to not recognize the situation you're in, you're not going to restrict your movement. So, like, you take some of these quote unquote retard strength, it's true. Like, they're using their muscles beyond the capacity that you would, because your neurologic system would shut that down. So drugs, adrenaline, lack of ability to monitor and have a governor on how much you're willing to output. And it happens in situations with adrenaline rushes. I mean, there are women that or men that do crazy feats of strength. And
That's
you're
right.
like, how the
It's
fuck
almost
did they
miraculous,
do that? 'Cause their nervous system didn't shut them down.
Yeah, there's a great book called Endure, which goes through all this like mind over matter kind of scenarios.
Yeah, that's it.
And he breaks it down like neurology, biology, physiology. And let's just say like you did a shit ton of cocaine, which would allow you to circumvent the normal constraint of your body or the normal constraint of a system to achieve like something outrageous.
Right.
So like there's ways to kind of hack the system. They're just also very costly.
Yeah, you're going to damage yourself.
Like
eventually.
if you ever been to like a powerlifting meet or before an NHL game, NFL game, smelling salts.
Yeah, they do smelling salts.
The noxious smell like makes them like holy shit, there's something wrong. Like it's a threat.
Yeah.
They're just now going to run down the football field and try to kill someone.
Could you then mentally train yourself to circumvent that, so you wouldn't need like the exogenous
I would
resources
say,
for such things?
I would imagine the special forces do it very well.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
You
Did train it.
It's a conditioning. It's
training.
very Pavlovian.
I mean, you hear the stories of people in those situations like, oh, the
Broken
guy got
legs and they're
shot
continuing to run.
25 times
Like-
and still fought. It's like, that's not, you can't just go do that.
Yeah, something else is-
You have to train your body, which is why SEAL training and Ranger training is so miserable, because like you have to be ready for that potential.
Yesterday, I went to buy protein drinks, and the store had a limit on how many cases of it you could buy. And I was
Really?
like, Christ, these fucking things are popular.
Yeah.
And I started to think about, we'd had a conversation a while ago that the supplement market isn't heavily regulated.
Correct.
What about like the protein drink supplements? Does that fall under that category? Do you have any idea? Like how do I know it actually has 30 grams of protein?
So protein would be probably scrutinized a little bit differently because that would be because anything with like a legitimate food label that is a food.
What's a legitimate food label? The
Like
nutritional
the
value
FDA,
square?
yeah.
Okay.
right? The FDA would have to. I could be wrong with
Yeah, they
the
would have
governing
to approve
bottle,
it, yeah.
the FDA, but like even then they're allowed. Correct. You have to fact check this, but I
Fact
think it's a
check.
20% leniency on label claims.
20%.
20%.
That's a big number.
And I'm not quite sure if that's just macronutrient or micronutrient or everything.
Yeah.
They're just giving this carte blanche, like, yeah,
We're gonna get
it's
close.
in the ballpark.
Yeah,
of
we're gonna
that,
get close.
You know.
Yeah.
And some of that is natural, obviously. Like there's clearly natural variability in growing vegetables or livestock, but then there's manufacturing discrepancies, like how it's produced, or like user error when producing cookies.
Is there any
Like-
latitude when you guys come up with nutritional programs? Like, do you kind of think that people are going to be within a certain percent of what they actually imbibe or ingest?
I mean, that's just kind of. I think we just calculate that as part of the process.
I
And
guess
it
what I'm
depends
asking
on
is
where they are.
If you get within 10%
Oh,
of the number, you in pretty good
10%,
shape?
yeah.
Okay. So if I'm at like 205 and I'm supposed to be at 210, it's like chill out. You can
Oh,
go to bed
100%.
now? Okay.
Yeah, we actually standardize that in our app. Like it's usually a 10% buffer zone.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Because it doesn't really. Yeah, if you look, well, maybe it's on our side, like the user side.
Pros.
Yeah, the pro side.
Yeah, he's a pro.
It says 10%
Yeah.
leniency. But
Home Depot.
Lastly, before we get to the games, just a general PSA for our friends and family out there. Clean the snow off your fucking car. You look like a schmuck when you drive around with snow on.
why are you looking at me?
I'm just
I
looking at
didn't do it.
everybody.
I actually did it yesterday. I felt horrible.
You drove around with snow. So that's fucked up because
On my hood.
I drove past your house. I'm like, oh, Mike must not have gone to the gym this morning, or he got there so early that he got back to his house for enough to get an inch of snow on it.
Yeah.
I hope he cleans it off before he drives because you don't have an automatic car starter, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you know what I did?
You know
I
what,
did
dude?
the windshield wipers.
You can hate dogs
I'm sorry.
and not clean the snow off your car, and we're still going to be buds.
Yeah.
But I disagree with it.
Yeah, I was actually. Marco was driving with me. I was like, shit, I forgot to take the stuff
Yeah,
off
yeah,
the
yeah.
hood.
So I'm going to like
So-
Hootie.
He did
You're not going to
actually.
clean
Yeah,
the
I was,
stuff
I
off
was
your car.
furious with myself.
So we went faster, but it cleaned itself.
Yeah.
Marco, intro music for next pod has got to be Hootie. Okay, pal?
Gotta be who.
All right, got two games. Really not great.
We love games.
Great.
Ready?
And we're so good at it.
This one's called How Do You Say It or What Do You Call It?
Okay.
Firefly or lightning bug?
Firefly.
June bug.
Is it June bug the same?
Firefly.
Wasn't even an option.
Yeah, I know.
Whoopsie daisy or oopsie daisy?
Whoopsie daisy.
I don't say either.
Jimmy's or sprinkles?
Sprinkles.
Shots.
Really?
Yeah,
You
it
had
is
on it?
shots. Yeah. Fucking shots.
That's
Shots.
That's not on here. Shots for everybody. Marcus, get the bottle. Stuff in the corner of your eye.
Goop.
Ooh.
Crust.
When you have to go number one,
Pee.
Piss.
I say I have to take a leak.
Yeah. Piddle.
What about number two?
Cocky duty.
Poop.
Take a dump.
Take a dump.
Vomit when you burp. What do you call it?
Ugh.
Turtle King calls it a verp.
A verb?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't do it very often.
The male erection.
Boner.
Boner. What, as opposed to what?
Hard on Woody. Stiffy.
No, you
No.
said male erection. As
Boner.
opposed to.
Oh, a female erection.
Boner.
Now I
Isn't
see what
that
you're
tenting?
asking.
Isn't
Tenting.
that vaginal tenting?
Tenting. Boner.
Right?
Is that a technical term?
I'm almost positive. Isn't that? You're a doctor, don't you
I
know
don't
that?
know.
What the
There's
fuck,
no
Marco?
tenting.
Is it tenting or is it not
I
tenting?
don't know. Tenting, I thought, was like when you had a boner in your pants and it looked like a tent.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's what I thought too. Fact check.
Fact check.
Living room or den?
Den.
Living room.
What do you call the TV remote?
Clicker.
Yeah, it's pretty much the clicker.
My dad calls it buttons.
What?
Matthew, where's the buttons?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's un-American.
He's un-American.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
likes Tom Petty too.
Hates
And
Hootie.
fucking hates Hootie. In or out, bands from the 90s. Ready?
In.
Weezer.
In.
Pearl Jam.
In.
REM.
Out.
Out.
Metallica.
In.
Oasis.
In.
Out.
No Doubt.
Out.
In.
Counting Crows.
Out.
In.
311.
Out.
Yeah, out.
Backstreet Boys.
Out.
Offspring.
Out.
Out.
Stone Temple Pilots.
In.
In.
Green Day.
In.
In.
Sublime.
Kind of.
Whoa.
Sublime is amazing.
Sublime is amazing.
Yeah.
You're kind of flip-floppy on Green Day?
Yeah.
I don't
I
want
like a couple of their songs, but like I would never listen to an album start to finish.
I'm out on their new stuff, but the 90s stuff was good. The Dookie album.
Yeah,
Do
Dookie
you
was
have
good.
the time
When I Come Around?
to
Yeah,
listen
the whole
to
album's
me?
great.
song.
Yeah, and the Kerplunk, I think, was the other one.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
they-
having trouble trying to sleep.
what's his name? The guy, the singer.
Billy Joel something.
Yeah.
Billy Joel?
Billy Joe.
He's all right. He's a little loud, but he's good.
It's a silent L. It's Billy Joe.
Billy Joe.
Joel.
And Trey Parker or something's the drummer's name.
It's the South Park.
Oh, his name's Trey something. All right, yeah. Anyway, if you can't pet it,
It ain't Pete's.
It's not Pete's.
Marcus.